Hello everyone, my name is Gareth Jones and this is the audio diary for my portfolio. In this diary I'll be discussing my initial concept of my work, my influences and what I was aiming to achieve, as well as the problems I encountered along the way and how I overcame them. So, without further ado, let's begin. The theme we were required to work to was that of a sci-fi port of some kind. We were told that the port could be in the form of a shipyard, space station, transport hub, or something of a similar nature. I therefore decided that I would be creating a train station. As sci-fi was the overall theme, I then decided that it might be a good idea for me to create my train station in such a manner that it would suit a dark cyberpunk dystopian world. I have a couple of reasons for this, amongst them the fact that I have a very keen interest in cyberpunk, and thus I deem myself an adequate judge of what would and wouldn't suit such a setting. As you can see from my mood board here, I've drawn influences from several cyberpunk worlds, some of them nameless, but most notably Blade Runner. The reason for this is, as I say, it's heavily industrial, it's rather dark, it's cyberpunky, it's quite noir, and it's in the far future, which is really what I was hoping to go with my train station. Another reason for this was because I wanted to go into an oppressive, almost intimidating feel to the world my station would exist in, almost to the point where even the architecture itself would be created in such a way that the individual would feel uncomfortable. In my opinion, cyberpunk worlds did this very well unto themselves due to the inherent rather large, dark and industrial nature. This brings me to one of the first design decisions I arrived at when I was ready to begin creating my station. What development tool would I create it in? I then decided that with its industrial aesthetic and generally violent nature, the Unreal 3 editor would be the perfect choice for this project. My second major design decision was the scale. How large or small would I build it? I concluded that, by and large, the larger the architect was, the more intimidating it would appear to the individual, mostly due to the sheer scale of the building in comparison to the actual individual. However, sheer height and width alone could have proven problematic in my opinion, as I figured too large of a complex would provide too much of an overall impact on the setting, the atmosphere and the mood, whilst too small a complex wouldn't quite give enough. And so, I set about a series of trial and error sessions, building and rebuilding my level at varying sizes, until I reached a level that I deemed suitable enough to proceed further. Once I created the bare bones of my level, I then proceeded to put together plans for my project and how I intended to proceed with it. I did this using Microsoft Excel and listed individual tasks, how long I expected them to take, what order I wanted to do them in, whether or not they were upcoming, ongoing or completed, and how much time I expected them to take. I updated this plan regularly so as not to fall behind, and overall I found it helped my organisation a great deal during the course of my project. As well as my Excel plan, I also created a 2D map of my level using Microsoft Visio and implemented various symbols marking out the different elements of my level, such as lights, computer terminals, statues, railway tracks, etc., complete with the keys so as to make it easy to read. I then set to work on creating an external asset from the Unreal 3 editor, which would be the train I'd be using in my station. I modelled this using 3ds Max, all the while doing my best to ensure that its aesthetic matched my setting, complete with bulky frames, sharp angular lines, and generally economic design. Finally, when all the meshes were in place and the tracks laid, one final element remained: lighting. This was among the simpler of the tasks I set myself to complete, but nevertheless, I did put considerable thought into how I thought the lighting should be presented in order to preserve the atmosphere of the level. This resulted in many, yet for the most part dim lights that would be used to provide light on the station platforms, mark out the tracks from overhead lamps, and also lighting the lower parts of the tracks which I would come to use as maintenance areas. This thought added a small level of realism to the station, and would therefore help the player relate to it a little more. I thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I hope to see you soon.